So hi everyone, my name is Katelyn, and I am an assistant professor and extension specialist at Auburn University here in Alabama. And so today I'm going to talk about some extension programming that's really new to me since COVID started, pairing Zoom, what we're doing now, and then streaming what we're doing live on a Facebook page. And so those of us that work in IPM, a phrase that I use all the time is, we want to use all the tools in the toolbox for IPM, right? And so this is like one of your extension tools in your programming toolboxes. And so it's not going to work for every situation, which I'll talk about in a few minutes, but it's super easy. And you're probably like, why am I even in this session to learn something that's going to be a couple clicks? But it's a good way to interact with the public, and I had never thought of it as a tool until somewhat recently. And so a quick rundown of what is going to kind of transpire over the next hour or so. I don't really have an agenda or a PowerPoint, just a few notes on my end so I don't completely space and start talking about, corneorm or something. But I want it to be as laid back as possible. Unmute yourself and interrupt if you have questions, if it's confusing, if you want to share something you've learned, because I know I'm not the only one doing this, and I'm certainly not the most well-versed. But my goal is just to maybe give you guys something to work on and then learn something myself as well. So we'll talk about some logistics for the first part of it, and then I have some guests that I've invited to help me out. We have Drs. Tracey Payton, Monique Rivera, and Eric Staffney from Oklahoma, California, and Mississippi, respectively. And they have agreed to be my guinea pigs and go live on our Alabama Extension commercial horticulture page. So I've kind of said 1 to 1:30 for some logistics, and then 1:30 to 2 Central Time for the Facebook Live. And I'm hoping you guys will stick around and ask some questions in the chat, so our guests will have some things to talk about. If you're super interested in, citrus greening disease, I'm sure Monique can talk about that for a long time, or whatever. So stick around here, ask questions on Zoom or on Facebook, either way. And I think Erin mentioned it, but this is being recorded. So it's going to be shared with people who can't attend live. But feel free to ask questions in the chat. I'll try to stop and see them. But that's kind of the schedule for today. So I'm going to probably spend a few minutes talking about my extension journey and how I got to a place where I think my face should be live on Facebook, because that still is a bizarre concept to me, and I'd much rather just remain anonymous if I could. But that's kind of the plan for today. And the beauty of this and Facebook Live is it's meant to be kind of, exactly that, live, no editing, kind of off the cuff. And so all the tools that people spoke about earlier, the programs, the editing, the time, you just kind of wing it. So you just hope it goes well. And I've had some times where it's gone horribly. But, in terms of equipment, I use very little. So I'll talk about that too. But my extension journey has really started probably about 5 years ago when I finished grad school. If you've heard me talk about my job, I took a job as an extension agent in West Texas in Lubbock, and I call that my extension postdoc, because that's really where I learned how extension works in a huge production ag area in a huge state like Texas. And Texas has both county agents, regional agents, and specialists. And I was on the high plains of Texas working primarily in row crops, but I did everything from insects, weeds, and diseases in crops, fruits, vegetables, structural, urban. So I had a very wide audience. And similar to my position now, I cover grain crops, I cover turf, hemp, pastures, forages. And so the tricky thing with this appointment like that, in addition to some of the situations I get myself into, if hemp growers want me to smoke their flower, or, the time I was asked to castrate a bull and I couldn't do it because it was terrifying. The tricky thing is there's so many different audiences for all the systems. And so the delivery tools we use are going to be different for each of those audiences, so we can meet them at their best learning level. So an example of this is when I was in Texas, none of my cotton farmers of an average age of 64 years old were going to watch a Facebook Live video, right? So they wouldn't do that. So the best thing I found was I would just get up and go to cotton gins at 6 a.m. and sit and have donuts and coffee with growers. And that's how I interacted. But now that I spend more time with doing master gardeners or horticulture or even hemp, those people are more on social media than the traditional row crop audience. I think a podcast would be fantastic, for row crops, but again, probably not going to watch Facebook Live. So it's useful, but knowing your audience and how they learn is going to be really important. So like I said, in terms of using Facebook programming, this was something that really just started this year for me with COVID. And when all extension meetings were canceled and we were struggling how to still meet our clients and their needs and questions, like, let's go virtual and figure it out. And so this was a team effort with a lot of my colleagues here in Extension. Some of the programs I'll show you on Facebook in a minute were the brainchild of Dr. Ayanava Majumdar. If you know him, he's our vegetable entomologist, and he's really forward thinking when it comes to extension. I had some colleagues that we did a regular Are You Smarter Than a Farmer series where they'd post a trivia question, and then we'd go live a couple days later, shout out to the person who got it right, and then spend 20 minutes just casually discussing the topic and why it's important. And so that's kind of how I got into it. And again, it's so easy. You don't need a lot of tools. I've never used anything except my computer and my cell phone. I have Zoom on my phone, Zoom on my computer, and Facebook both places. And I'm sure you could get a good mic and stuff, but honestly, I've done videos Zooming from the field to Facebook where I just prop my phone up on the cab of my truck or use something to hold it and then just stand in front of a cornfield. We've had some issues. Just if you ever have an iPhone in the hot sun for a long time, it just burns up and shuts down. So that's been an issue. But it's pretty easy. Set up a simple tripod or something. And that's kind of the beauty of this and why it's so great. So I think Mike mentioned in the last one about podcasting, Zoom is really, really useful. So you can do a lot with it. There's a lot of extras that we can do in addition to, your standard faculty meeting or something. And so one of those tools is the ability to go either to Facebook or YouTube or other social media or custom live streaming platforms with what you're presenting on Zoom. And so what I want to do is I'll share my screen and kind of show you some of the stuff we've done, some of the things I've learned about Facebook and interfacing, and then I'll go through a step-by-step, here's how I connect my Zoom and set it up so I have the capabilities. And so let me see if I can share my screen. And let's do that one. Okay, so are you seeing my Facebook right now? No.
I see, maybe it's your background. It looks like a landscape, deserty.
I have too many screens. Okay. All right. Is that good? Okay. So this is my Facebook page, and I'll show you, we have a Southern Hemp Research and Extension page, and so you can see, I'm viewing it as an administrator, so you'll see a few different things, but here's something we did a couple weeks ago. We did a couple webinars. So it's 101. I'm connecting us to Facebook right now, so we will be okay. All right. So that was me talking, and we did a couple webinars. So I had two co-hosts, and you can see there's Adam Rabinowitz talking about hemp and CBD, and then I think I pop on. I spent a lot of time talking about marijuana, so this was a fun one. And then I had another colleague, and so there was the three of us all in different places as co-hosts giving a webinar. And then at the end, we had like a live Q&A. So we had people ask questions and we were there to kind of just answer them as we went along. A few things, and then the cool thing about Facebook is people can ask questions as you're streaming live, and then if you are paying attention, you can just answer them as you read them. So you may want to have one or two people doing it, so one person can focus on one tech and another person can focus on questions or moderating. And then once you go live, the video stays on your feed. So you'll see this is still here. And it says it was published by me. If you were to view it as a visitor, which is not an admin like me on the page, you'll see it's just posted. So that's more of like an insider information. And when you go live, you don't have any information. It just goes straight to Facebook and it says the date and the time. And I haven't done this for this one, but what you want to do afterwards is click on these three buttons and go to edit post. And that's where you can put in like a summary of it. You can say, listen to this great webinar by these folks, and here's what they talked about. You can do date and time, location, and then add keywords. So if people are searching for stuff on Facebook, they can find it. And so that's going to be something you want to do afterwards to kind of entice people to watch it, which again, I didn't do it for this one, but like a quick summary would be really good. And then I'll show more about this later, but distribution, one of the things you can do with Facebook pages, if you manage several yourself or you have coworkers that manage something and you want to cross-post it, you can make available to other pages. And so this is another page that I'm an admin on, so it shows up here, and that's why that's an option. But you have to be admin of both pages to cross-post. Otherwise, you need permission. So if Erin had a Facebook page and I wanted to say, hey, I got this great live video of army worms, let's cross-post. The way I can do that is I can exit out of this. I'm actually just going to close it because I don't want to save it yet. And then on your manage page, if you're an admin of a page, you can go to settings and scroll down and find cross-posting. And that's where you'd go ahead and get permission from someone else. Say I typed in, Erin's Facebook page. She could say, oh yes, I want to do that. And then decide how you share videos that way. And so if you have something that's going to be applicable to a wide variety of audiences and each one's on a different page, that's an option. It's kind of more like a next step after you post it. But that's how you do it for 2 pages. And then I'll show you, this is our horticulture page for Alabama Extension. And so this is, I made this last night. These are our guests today. So I was advertising that we're going to have a live Q&A in a few minutes. And then this one, we've gone in and say, this is a summary, and in true extension spirit, here's a survey and let us know what you think. Did you learn? Are you adopting these behaviors that we told you about? And so it's a great tool to do that. People can do comments. So here's one on trellising. And so it's a webinar, a typical PowerPoint presentation, but then you go towards the end and you have participants on Facebook asking questions. You can have people at the end asking on Zoom. And so this is a really easy way. If you're already doing stuff in Zoom, sharing your screen and doing stuff, this is super easy. Okay, so how do we do it? So I'm going to go to my Zoom page. So this is my institution's Zoom. And so you log in. So I'm here are my meetings. I'm doing this, I'm doing a couple tomorrow. And where you want to go to access this to make sure you have the capabilities is your settings. And you'll see you have settings for meeting, for recording, and for telephone. And meeting is where you want to do that. So this is just a quick link. So these are all listed here. So security, schedule a meeting, and you can click on all these, and where you want to go is to in meeting advanced. And so scroll down. These are things you may or may not have thought of when you're doing it: virtual backgrounds, filters, chatting, that sort of stuff. And keep scrolling to allow live streaming meetings.
Wow.
And so I have mine selected. So what I'm going to do is I'll share my other screen and show you what it looks like when I have that selected. So if you look at my screen, this is my other one where I have my Zoom controls. I can go to more and live on Facebook, live on YouTube. And if I were to go and click that button and turn it off, I go back. Well, it hasn't updated yet, but that would be a way it would go away if I turn it off. Let me go back to this one. Okay. So what you're going to want to do is just click it, turn it on, and I've selected Facebook and YouTube. I honestly don't know what Workplace by Facebook is. If someone does, like, feel free to let me know. But these are the ones that you can do. If you do a custom live streaming service, this would be if you have like another work page outside these social media, you can write here the URL for where to stream it, and then it will recognize and go ahead and do that. So it's an easy way to do it. They have YouTube and Facebook built in, and then you can do another one if you want. So I'm gonna not click on that, but that's really all you have to do to make sure that you have capabilities and you have those buttons. Then once you click on, let's see, I'm going to click on live on Facebook now, but I won't actually go yet, but you'll see, where do you want to post your video? So if you have a personal page, you can do it on your news feed. So I'd be posting as Katelyn. If I want to share something with Tracey, like, hey, I'm going to show you something really great that I'm doing this afternoon and you need to see it live, I can put it on her timeline. But on a page you manage is probably where most of us are going to be sharing things. And then it gives you, these are the two pages I have admin on, permissions on my Facebook. And so click on that, and then you can post as the Alabama Cooperative Extension System, or if I wanted to post as me, but I'd much rather say this is a post from Extension. So don't change, and then click next, and that would go all the way to start streaming. I'm not going to do it. We'll do it in a few minutes, but that's the gist of it. As long as you have the settings set in your Zoom, in your official profile to allow it. And then I'm logged in on my Facebook, so it went straight to my page, but you may have to log in. But that's really it. It's really not a lot of stuff to do. There are a few things to note that I've learned. If you are on Zoom and talking, and then you have the Facebook page up and it's streaming live, you're going to hear an echo as all the sound filters through. And so what I do is I mute what's happening on Facebook and focus on what's happening on Zoom. And the reason I do that is because there's a lag of about 15 to 20 seconds. And so what I'm saying now will show up on Facebook in 20 seconds. And so you don't want that kind of back traffic of sound going through. If you want someone, so say I was asking Monique today to present a PowerPoint or share her screen or something, I'd want to give her hosting abilities. I'll stop sharing now. But you'd want to make sure that everyone that you hope to be involved with in less of a, participant way, give them host capabilities so they can go in and share if they need to. So really just kind of think through how the event's going to go before you get started. If you have and I've done this, a pre-recording, so I had someone record a Zoom, kind of like we've all done for ESA. If we've done pre-recorded sessions, I can pull that up on my computer and play it as if the person was presenting live. The quality is exactly the same. But that's really a quick and dirty rundown of how we've done that this year, and it's been successful. We've gotten a lot of good feedback from it. We've done it probably more than we needed to. My face was probably more on Facebook than it should have been this year. But it's a really useful tool for if you're already doing something, if you're already doing a meeting or a webinar or whatever. It's just another platform without any extra work that you can, double dip is a phrase we like to use in extension. And so it's a really easy way to double dip and maybe reach an audience that you otherwise wouldn't by getting them to register for Zoom or come to an in-person meeting, or, if they're just scrolling on their phone and they see that, your page is live, maybe you're talking about something that hits home for them, so they're going to watch it. Another thing is that it stays there. It stays there on Facebook, and people can play it anytime they want. And in terms of metrics, you can go in and see, okay, this was watched 25 times, this was watched 300 times, and then you can go into your Facebook admin pages and look at like engagements, how many people liked it, shared it, etc. So we have a few minutes before I'm going to actually take this to Facebook. So if anyone has any questions, suggestions, comments, what's worked for them, I'm happy to kind of talk through them now. I think that would be helpful. Like I said, I'm not the only one who's doing this, and I'm still very new. So if people have thoughts, I'd love to kind of open it up for a few minutes and just see what people have done and tried.
Katelyn, we had a question, and maybe you will demonstrate this when you actually launch, but could you show us again how you mute the Facebook so you're not getting weird feedback?
Sure. So I'm going to share the screen. So it's playing now, and down in the bottom right corner of the video, just hit that speaker icon and it mutes it, and it's still playing. So if I was live and watching myself and still talking on Zoom, I'd want to get that muted. So it may, when you open it up, if you have, it defaults to sound, and so it may be a little bit wonky for a minute, but that's how I've done it. I'm trying to read. And so in the beauty of it is like, if I'm doing a webinar anyway, I might as well just put it on Facebook and see if I can't find someone who wants to watch it. If they're, doom scrolling through social media these days, and then we have something that's exciting and fun and personable, then you can get some people to watch it.
So Katelyn, I assume that the people that belong to your group, it's easy to reach them with like, hey, we're having this takeover or Facebook Live webinar, but how do you reach people that aren't in your group, or do you try?
So I don't really go out of my way. Sometimes I've joined other groups as just a participant, and then like kind of sit and watch them and see what they're saying. A lot of growers, primarily fruit, vegetable, stuff like that, master gardeners, and then hemp producers are really active on Facebook. And so I kind of creep on their pages, and then I'll post as a guest and say, hey, check out this, we're doing this, and you can watch it on this Facebook page. So it's kind of some just personal going out there and saying like, come watch me, it's going to be fantastic. Leave this page and come to this page.
Yeah.
Do
you tweet about it, like upcoming events? Use Twitter?
Yeah. Yep.
Okay.
So I I don't do this very well, but you can go into Facebook and when you manage a page, schedule an event. And if someone has liked your page or follows your page, they'll get a notification that there's an event, or they'll get a notification that Katelyn's live right now, come watch her. So Facebook it'll show up in your little notifications area. The same way if someone were to post on your timeline, if a page that you were following went live, then all the people following it get a notification from Facebook that, look, commercial horticulture is live right now, and you can click on it and watch it. So it's pretty easy to do.
Katelyn, are these all in the webinar format and not meeting format, so that that it's only the hosts that you have invited to speak?
So I just do them in meeting format. And then if I know ahead of time, then I'll make them co-hosts if we're going to mute everybody else, if we don't want them talking. And what I do is, if there's multiple people on the call, the people I want on the screen, if I'm sharing my screen, I'll pin their videos. So if you go to someone's picture and on Zoom or their profile, you see, the 3 dots, and you can say pin. So as a guest of a meeting, you can pin one video at a time. But if you're hosting, then you can pin up to, I think, 9 or 10. And so you can pin, and then you see what you're pinning, but everyone else will see if they're pinning, unless you're doing the webinar format and you spotlight them. So everyone sees the same pin. But if I'm sharing my screen, it doesn't matter, because who I've pinned is who I want, on that screen. So I don't use the spotlight. I just use the pinning function, and then pin the people that I want, on the screen for that meeting.
And then how does that, because that's the part where I kind of get confused, is how does that then record in Zoom, where in Zoom land, when you send it out there, like which one? Because it looks like you had 3 that were recorded at the same time. Is that if you pin them, they all show up at the same time? Or how does that work?
Yeah, and I'll do this in a minute. So when I have Tracey, Eric, and Monique go live with me, I'll pin their videos on my screen. So they're the only ones showing, and then everyone else is to the side. And the recording, so if I were to record it on my computer like I'm doing now, or record on Facebook, where you're sharing from, that's the screen that gets recorded and seen. So if you
pin it, it stays there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's the host. Yep. And so if Tracey was sending it as a co-host, was sending it to Facebook Live, what she had on her screen would show up. But if her and I pinned different people, then it's going to default to what she's done. So it's just one of those things, like, you have to just know in advance who is going to be speaking. If you want to do that, if it takes a second, but yeah, just think through how you want to do it and who you want shown in terms of videos and that sort of stuff, and give co-host capabilities for whatever fits the situation. The ones I've done are really laid back. It's either just like a couple of us sitting around chatting, or we're all in different places, and I'm in a strawberry field and I'm going to walk down and show you on my phone or my iPad. And the beauty of it is it can be really rough footage, and it can be windy and that sort of stuff. But the idea is your audience knows that there is no editing. It's off the cuff. And so I like to keep it, more friendly and less formal. And so if you make mistakes or it goes awry, like, no one cares. It's Facebook Live. So it happens. So, yes, that would be really good. And again, since I'm new to this, I'm still learning all the things that can go wrong, as they do go wrong. But but yeah, similar to if you're doing a video or you're, preparing for something, a storyboard or something would be really helpful. So you know how each part of it is going to go, mapped out a little bit, and then leave some room for flexibility. So what I'm going to do now is, and I'll share my screen and show you as I do this. I'm going to pin myself. I'm going to pin Monique. So if you see, I could add pin, and I can do more than one. I'm going to.
We're not able to see your screen. I think when you're doing that in a Zoom and you're sharing it, I don't think we can see it. All we see is your desktop.
Oh, okay. Well, I'm really just pinning people, so then they stay on my.
You know who you are, yeah.
Yeah. And then let's see, I'm going to stop screen sharing. And then if you go, so once you pin everybody that you want pinned, so I've pinned me and Monique and Eric and Tracey. If you go back to speaker view, then it's not just me that's speaking, but it's everyone that the host has pinned. Does that make sense? And I can.
So should we see 3 panels right now? Because right now I'm only seeing your
So I'm the only one that sees 4 panels right now.
Okay.
So if you were in a webinar Zoom and you spotlighted people, you could spotlight more than one, and then everyone would see it. But if you're in a meeting and you're just pinning people, so there's a difference between pin and spotlight.
Got it.
So when I pin, the host can pin, I think it's 9. You can pin up to 9 people, like a little Brady Bunch grid. But what you all see is different than what I see. But since I'm recording this, like when Brian said, oh, there's just one, we can go to the recording and you'll see like, well, Katelyn's screen is being shared. So there's 4 of them there. So what I'm going to do now is I'm going to take us live to Facebook, and I'm going to ask that you guys will introduce all our guests. And then if you guys stay in Zoom and you want to throw up some questions for our guests that they can answer, literally anything. If not, we'll probably find something to talk about. And if you have a Facebook page, and you can jump onto Facebook to the Alabama Extension Commercial Horticulture page. You can engage with us there and write comments that I'll try to read and answer them. So I'm going to click on More and click on Live on Facebook. And I'll share my screen just for a second so you can see what's happening. So I'm going to share it to a page I manage. We're going to go to the Alabama Extension Commercial Horticulture page. Posting as commercial horticulture. I'm going to click on next, and it takes a minute and it's getting ready. And so it's preparing live streaming preview, Zoom to Facebook Live, because I have all my settings. And then go live on Facebook. I'll close that Facebook one. Close that one. And click on Go Live. So if I added a title to my video, I could connect more people, it says, but that's the final thing. And now we're getting set up. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and close that. And so once we get on Facebook, we should see, I'm going to go to, and when you go live on Facebook, in the top left-hand corner of your screen, you're going to see that the meeting is live now. So in the same thread where you see recording, you're going to see another button that says live. And so I just saw this notification. So this is my Facebook. So I got a notice that this page is now live, And so if we scroll down, here we are. So it stays muted, but now you can see me talking. So this is my Facebook. So I got a notice so that's about 20 seconds behind. And so as they kind of watch it, it should shift 20 seconds. And then we'll see this screen, hopefully in just a minute. If not, then I've done something terribly wrong. And I'm gonna unmute. Okay. Spotlight and add spotlight. Okay, so you guys should see everybody now. Do you see everybody? Okay. I think, okay, so I'm not seeing what I'm supposed to be seeing, and I wonder if, let's see. Can y'all, do you just see my face? Is that what everyone sees? Or do you actually see the three of us? Okay. Well. March, you go in the middle of planting. Yeah. I'm trying to reconnect to see if it will do the pinned videos, and I don't know. Let's see.
So real quickly, this is just a reminder to everybody that this will happen and it's okay. It is totally okay. This is the thing with extension and new stuff is these are the fears that we have. At least I do. And so, yeah, well, it happens. Yeah.
It's okay. It is totally okay. This is the thing with extension and new stuff.
Oh.
At least I do.
We can't hear you, Katelyn. You're muted, just so you know.
Oh, yeah. I honestly don't know what is happening and why I can't get everyone that I've spotlighted on this. So we may just have to forego that part of this because I think it's defaulting right now to who has ever unmuted and rather than people who are spotlighted. So I apologize. I don't know what, I don't know. I don't have an answer for this and I can't figure it out right now. So I'm gonna go ahead and stop this and delete that video because it's me just rambling. So I apologize to everyone, and I'm gonna go ahead and remove some spotlighted people. Yeah, I don't know. That's too bad.
So Katelyn, ideally you would set up the Facebook Live in your settings in Facebook, and then also set up a Zoom meeting in Zoom, and then kind of launch it from there. That's the general process.
Yeah, so really what we've done in the past that's worked is we'll have a Zoom meeting scheduled, like say I'm giving a webinar or something, and I will send out a link for people to register via Zoom. So we can have a really good kind of group of people, and we also know who's registered. So you give your name and your email, and then we can, spam them with extension materials afterwards. And then, so while you're running your webinar and you have your clients also on Zoom, you'll just, as an addition, send it to Facebook. So we'll have the speakers on Zoom and anyone else who's on there, and it's just like an additional thing that you're doing to reach people that didn't register for the Zoom meeting. So, and I'm sorry, I don't know why I can't get it to work right now. But I did it the other day for a meeting, and what I did was I had my computer and I played presentations and I had people on Zoom, and then I sent it over to another Facebook page, and it was just a couple more people that were watching it that weren't on the Zoom. And so it's that kind of that audience that you normally wouldn't get if you don't send out emails to them, if they're on your newsletter list, and you can kind of catch them and then have them, like your page, do a survey, and reach people you normally wouldn't reach. So in a perfect world, that's how it works. But like Brian said, once you're in extension, you just kind of get used to things going wrong. But I was really hoping this would go right. And I'm really grateful for Tracey, Eric, and Monique agreeing to talk about, horticulture and entomology. And I'm sorry we couldn't do that, but we can still talk about that now if you want. And what I can do is, I have a couple notes that I wrote down for this, but I can put together like a step-by-step, go here, do this, check this, and then I'll add what I figure, once I figure out, what went wrong in true extension style. I don't know now, but I'll get back to you. So that's where we are right now.
So Katelyn, do you think it's like, what's the age group of people that are using Facebook? Do you think, is it the kind of middle-aged like us people, or is it young people? Have they forgotten about it? Do you know?
Yeah, Tracey, I see you're shaking your head. If I think it's like people younger than us are TikToking and Twittering, and I haven't quite gotten there yet. And I think it's our group, and then like my mom, right? So, retired people that maybe like to see pictures of their kids and grandkids. Or, and we found a really good following with like master gardeners. I think that's a much more active on social media group than your traditional row crop farmer. And so it depends on kind of what your message is and who you're hoping to reach. Maybe small and beginning farmers are much more active on there. Anyone who has a a business Facebook page that they use it for. That's a good thing to use it for. But yeah, I think I'm maybe I only use Facebook for work. I don't really use it for anything other than that. And then, so I can, see a few pictures here and there, but I think I'm at the cusp of where like Facebook stops being cool, maybe. So yeah.
So what kind
Caitlin,
of,
sorry.
go ahead. Oh, go ahead.
Hey, Caitlin, I was curious, since you pinned us, the four of us, if we have to have our settings changed to be able to go live to Facebook, and maybe that's why. I don't know.
No, it's on my end, and I don't know what was going wrong, because I've been a host and a guest, and it's been fine before, so I don't know, what that is. I see that Brian wrote in the chat, there is a actual really fantastic list on Zoom and on Facebook that tells you exactly how to do that. And if you want to go to somewhere else other than Facebook, you can go to YouTube or your custom streaming services. And there's also on Facebook, and I can send this out too, information on cross posting. So even if you're not going live, if you have a Facebook page that you put a video on, and then I do something on bed bugs, and Jody's like, that's fantastic, my Nebraskan clients would love it, then I can share that video that's already been shared on mine. And the good thing about that is I would see metrics on my end, and Jody would see a separate set of metrics on her end. They're not merged. And so again, it's that double dipping you can do where you're sharing the same thing to multiple audiences, but you're also getting data back on views, engagements, that sort of stuff. So, but as far as I know, I don't think it's not anything that you had to do on your end, Tracey. I goofed, and it wasn't worth me showing my face looking like what on Facebook Live for 30 minutes. So I just cut it. I figured we'd just talk. But for the most part, it's pretty easy. And I would recommend it once you figure out some kinks. Maybe don't start with 4 people at in a live meeting where you're trying to teach someone how to do something that you're not entirely sure how to do yourself. But, again, that's extension. That's why we're here.
I have a question, Katelyn. For some of your programs or webinars or meetings, do you are your clients, are they paying for that? And how, if so, how do they feel when those are streaming live or are these open,
Sure. That's a great question. No, I don't stream anything for events that people had to pay for. And which is why it's probably it's worked well in COVID, because when you charge for extension meetings, it could be for, mileage or food or handouts or something. So yeah, we'll advertise, make a flyer, send out a Zoom link, and encourage people to register that way, because then we get, their names, demographic, email, all that stuff that, we as extension want to give to our admins to say, we had this sort of population come to our Zoom. And you're not necessarily going to get that demographic information from Facebook, but you are going to get counts. And so it's just an additional way to kind of spread out your content to different audiences. And when it does work, it's super easy, and it's just the adjusting settings and clicking a button. So it's not like you have to travel to a different location to do a different meeting or put together a different presentation. And you can, and I would recommend having an additional person help you with this, which I probably should have done or, planned well more in advance. But have an additional person to help you to say, hey, Katelyn, there was a question in the chat about high tunnel tomatoes. And I'll be like, well, hey, Tracey, let's talk about this, And so it's nice to have someone reading, because you're going to be reading on Zoom chat, and then you're going to be reading on Facebook comments too. And so having someone to help moderate and do tech and chatting and that sort of stuff is helpful. So But yeah, to answer your question, no, we don't. I don't stream anything that people have paid for. Is the short answer. So, any questions, comments, concerns? Do we want to talk about horticulture and entomology? We don't have to.
I have no problem, but I actually had another question, if you
Sure.
don't mind. I've never used the registration for a Zoom meeting. Is it a clunky tool? Is that the one where you have to go to the online account and go in and create it? And
So we actually, at my institution, we have within Zoom, we have a meeting template, but you can go in there and it's pretty easy. Let me see if I can pull it up and show you what I've done. So let me share my screen. So these are my meetings. We're in this one right now. This is one I'm having tomorrow, and I sent out a registration link. So instead of just having a meeting invite, it's a registration. I have a waiting room, and then there's this registration at the bottom, and I can see how many people are registered and some settings there. And so this is where you do all this stuff. If this is where the meeting template comes into play. So if you wanted to set the same settings for, like, say you're doing a whole host of meetings, you would go in and do that. And then these things would be your options. And so there is limitation based on what level of Zoom you have. So if you have like the latest version, and then also what limitations have been put on by your institution. And so mine are set for Auburn. So, and then I can go in here and view all my people who have registered for the meeting and when they did, and their email and that sort of stuff. So, and then they all get an email confirmation saying you're registered, here's the link. So if I were to click on this link, it's going to take me to a registration where I need to type in my name, my address, and then register. And so and if there was a passcode or something, then you would get it sent to you when you register. And so that's how we do this for extension meetings.
is there a way to export that data?
Yes. Yes.
Okay.
Sorry
if these are really naive questions. What I learned today or yesterday is that, and this was working with Jody, I never used a poll before, so I figured out how to do that, but it's really not that intuitive. You have to like go into the meeting and then save it, and then all of a sudden you get all these other options that kind of come up. Like I find some of those things to be a little bit counterintuitive, but now that I see it, it is there. It's pretty easy to use.
Yeah, it's and to be honest, I didn't set all this up. This was again a template we were told to use by our extension program, but I can go in and get all this information from our IT department. They have all this, and they send it to me in a spreadsheet. I don't know what magic happens there, but that's what they do when I want the names and emails and all that stuff of people who register. We have a pretty active communications department, and they set up everything online. We tell them what we're doing, all the details, and they set up this registration, and I provide the Zoom link for them. We have a system. So if I wanted to schedule a meeting for next week, I go into our communication extension system and say, here's the time, it's virtual, here's the Zoom link, and then they export all that data to me so I have information on it. But I don't know what magic they do to make that happen.
That sounds great.
It's honestly,
can I send them my stuff? Is that okay if I just send my stuff over?
And, contact information, send it over to Alabama. Why not?
No, thanks for answering that. That's really helpful. Yeah.
Yeah, and that's where you
Each
would.
day I realize don't know very much about these programs. There's a lot of power behind these. Yeah.
Yeah, and I have all my meetings for work set up to record just an audio file and then an audio and video file. And so it automatically goes, and you can send it to your computer or you could send it to your cloud, and then share that afterwards. And so, but yeah, I think Zoom is more powerful than we give it credit for, probably because we're all just sick of it at this point. But it actually really is. It's a good platform to use, and you can use it on multiple devices too, which is helpful. But yeah, I'm still learning as we go about how all these connect, because I'm old and I'd rather just do everything on paper. So, but yeah, I'm happy to try to answer any more questions if we have one. Again, I'm sorry that we couldn't, this didn't go as planned, but I appreciate your patience.
This is an
No
unrelated
apology needed. Just saying. Sorry. No
All right.
apology needed.
We keep talking over each other, Brian. I
Jody
apologize.
Jan, can I go next?
I have an unrelated question. I love these share fair backgrounds. Is there someone that can show me how to do a background if I want to do a cool thing for my Zooms? Great.
I won't interrupt you, Tracey, but
email later.
Yeah, I'll tell you my really big secret. PowerPoint. That's really it. You just set up to the 16:9 ratio, make whatever background you want. That's the other thing too, is the newer PowerPoint, like the online, like gives you so much other like really cool tools for making your talks accessible. So it does the subtitling at the bottom. I don't know if you're aware of that, but the latest version will do a really good job of subtitling all of your PowerPoints. So if you're trying to make some of those online and make them accessible, but not all versions of Microsoft will do that. But I find that, yeah, you just export it as a PNG, JPEG, and that's how I created all these and it didn't take very much time, and they're about the right size. So that's my secret.
Thank you.
Yep.
Yeah, I first got on with my background and I was like, wait, I'm wearing black. Am I just gonna be a floating head? Because that would be fun.
I guess I am too. I didn't realize that.
Yeah.
One more question. I don't want to hog. I'm really curious by this. So a lot of our agents in Kansas were using Facebook to do a lot of their meetings. So is it really doing what you've done, or set up a really simple way to kind of make that kind of go like wildfire? I mean, like they can kind of share and share and share if you've got some programming. And is this really kind of a simpler way to get that out? Or
I think it's good because you can advertise to your clients that you already have hooked, via your regular, if you have Twitter or newsletter or whatever, and get the Zoom and have them join on here. But then going on Facebook Live, and I did a little bit of this in my previous position. I mean, we would just film really short snippets of us scouting, or, and I think the beauty of it is that it doesn't require editing, and people know it's in real time. And so it's timely and relevant, but then it stays there. And so you can add, when you go into that edit and say, well, today, Katelyn talked about scouting for, stink bugs, and it's, July 3rd or something. And so that stays there. And then you can go in and say, I'm going to add this to my permanent video playlist for this Facebook page. And so it stays there. It's just another resource to put your educational materials. I've found it, not aside from today, but really easy to use and just to reach another set of people that you maybe normally wouldn't reach. And if you're already putting out content and filming and doing a webinar, or, having something on camera, just having that link to connect it, it's, even if you get one viewer, it's one more person that you educated on something that they otherwise wouldn't have. And so even if your metrics aren't, you had 1,000 views and 2,500 engagements, that's fine, because you didn't put a ton of work into it other than just clicking and saying, all right, now this is gone, live. So, and if you have a network of people that all are on Facebook, we can share something, in one place and then share it in another place without creating new content. So it's just, again, expanding your reach.
Okay, just one more thing. So before you go live with each one, you have to, that it's going live and you press the button, all those buttons and that link. It's not like automatically like recording, like when you show up on your Zoom and it automatically records, like, you're not going to be like checking which side your barcode's on and you're already live.
So you have to think about that 20-second delay too. And so like it goes live probably a little bit sooner than you would think, because it's, as soon as you click OK.
You have to click OK.
Yes. Yep.
Okay.
Yep. And so I think on my last one, you might have heard me saying, okay, I'm going live on Facebook now. So only just click this and then I'll, have Adam share his screen. And so, yeah, it was as soon as you click it, it goes a little bit quicker than you would think it would. But as long as you're not caught with your pants down, then you should, figuratively speaking, but you should be fine. But again, it's Facebook Live, so it's fine. But you have the ability to go into and you can edit or delete a video if it, if you end up like me. So yeah, you can always erase it. So. Well, it's 2:02. I hope this was helpful. I can put together like a step-by-step cheat sheet and figure out what went wrong and let everyone know. But thanks to my guests. I really appreciate you all. Thanks for bearing with me. Thanks for inviting me. This was fun, a little stressful, but fun. So.
Caitlin,
that was great.
There's enough interest with the group for people that fill out surveys. If you ever wanted to do this again, and it doesn't necessarily have to be like this month, but like maybe for some other time, I'd be interested in seeing kind of the back end of how you do another Facebook Live.
Yeah,
Sounds
for
like
sure.
Other people would be too. But a cheat sheet would be awesome. Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Awesome stuff.
Yeah. Thanks for your time. Thanks for all the helpers. Maybe we could do it again sometime.